Proper way to declare custom exceptions in modern Python? What's the proper way to declare custom exception classes in modern Python? My primary goal is to follow whatever standard other exception classes have, so that, for instance, any extra string I include in the exception is printed out by whatever tool caught the exception. By modern Python I mean something that will run in Python 2.5 but be correct for the Python 2.6 and Python 3 way of doing things. And by custom I mean an exception object that can include extra data about the cause of the error, a string, maybe also some other arbitrary object relevant to the exception. I was tripped up by the following deprecation warning in Python 2.6.2. It seems crazy that base exception has a special meaning for attributes named message. I gather from PEP 352 that attribute did have a special meaning in 2.5 they're trying to deprecate away, so I guess that name, and that one alone, is now forbidden? Ugh. I'm also fuzzily aware that exception has some magic parameter args, but I've never known how to use it. Nor am I sure it's the right way to do things going forward. A lot of the discussion I found online suggested they were trying to do away with args in Python 3. Update. 2 answers have suggested overriding _init_ and _str_ Unicode _ /repr_. That seems like a lot of typing. Is it necessary?
Maybe I missed the question, but why not? To override something, or pass extra args, do this. That way you could pass dictive error messages to the second param, and get to it later with e.errors. In Python 2, you have to use this slightly more complex form of super.
With modern Python exceptions, you don't need to abuse .message, or override ._str_ or ._repr_, or any of it. If all you want is an informative message when your exception is raised, do this. That will give a traceback ending with my exception column. My hovercraft is full of eels. If you want more flexibility from the exception, you could pass a dictionary as the argument. However, to get at those details in an except block is a bit more complicated. The details are stored in the args attribute, which is a list. You would need to do something like this. It is still possible to pass in multiple items to the exception and access them via tuple indexes, but this is highly discouraged, and was even intended for deprecation a while back. If you do need more than a single piece of information and the above method is not sufficient for you, then you should subclass exception as described in the tutorial.
What is the proper way to declare custom exceptions in modern Python? This is fine unless your exception is really a type of a more specific exception. Or better, maybe perfect, instead of pass give a docstring. Subclassing exception subclasses. From the docs. Exceptional built-in, non-system exiting exceptions are derived from this class. All user-defined exceptions should also be derived from this class. That means that if your exception is a type of a more specific exception, subclass that exception instead of the generic exception, and the result will be that you still derive from exception as the docs recommend. Also, you can at least provide a docstring, and not be forced to use the pass keyword. Set attribute to create yourself with a custom underscore in an underscore. Avoid passing it as a positional argument, future users of your code will thank you. If you use the deprecated message attribute, assigning it yourself will avoid a deprecation warning. There's really no need to write your own underscore str underscore or underscore wrapper underscore. The built-in ones are very nice, and your cooperative inheritance ensures that you use them. Critique of the top answer. Maybe I missed the question, but why not? Again, the problem with the above is that in order to catch it, you'll either have to name it specifically, importing it if created elsewhere, or catch exception, but you're probably not prepared to handle all types of exceptions, and you should only catch exceptions you are prepared to handle. Similar criticism to the below, but additionally that's not the way to initialize via super, and you'll get a deprecation warning if you access the message attribute. Edit, to override something, or pass extra args, do this. That way you could pass dictive error messages to the second param, and get to it later with e.errors. It also requires exactly 2 arguments to be passed in, aside from the self, no more, no less. That's an interesting constraint that future users may not appreciate. To be direct, it violates Liskov substitutability. I'll demonstrate both errors. Compared to
See how exceptions work by default if one versus more attributes are used, tracebacks omitted. So you might want to have a sort of exception template, working as an exception itself, in a compatible way. This can be done easily with this subclass. And if you don't like that default tuple-like representation, just add _str_ method to the exception template class, like. And you'll have
If you want to see more, please consider subscribing.